We're gonna be safe and sound tonight.
Hello, hello. This next discussion is going to be quite the doozy. This is titled Welfare and Wage Slavery, and how they're both very, very connected to each other. So first of all, I want to talk about the labor pool and essentially the number of individuals of working age and who are able-bodied. Now, as the welfare state has grown from the 1930s through 1970s all the way to today, post-recession, the ratio of people that are part of the welfare state versus people who are able-bodied workers has grown out of balance tremendously. And as this occurs, the cost of living for workers goes up, and generally their quality of life goes down. And it's a tragedy, really, because the people on welfare are not necessarily evil people, right? They have moral ambiguity in a certain sense, because their options are to take advantage of the system, like an increasing percentage of the population is, or risk and labor within the working class or the wage slaves and try and survive on an income that is less and less and less viable every single year. You're essentially signing up for a life of servitude just to do the right thing. And I guess I don't blame people when they're given the choice of being the oppressed or being the oppressor. A lot of people choose to be the oppressor. It's a choice of self-interest. It's not necessarily a choice of evil. And it's the system's fault for giving people that choice to begin with, for having that choice available to the general population. I honestly think that it is a divide and conquer conspiracy designed to bring down the U.S. economy and designed to bring down the American people and to bring down our civilization and destroy it. Welfare has created the wage slave. That's just the God-honest truth. That's just the way things are. Because right now, for every worker, we have, probably I would say 3 to 5 people who are on government benefits for life and who will never work a day in their life for life. They're retired. They retire at the age of 23 just because they filled out some paperwork. And the person next to them is having trouble paying rent, is having trouble getting his car fixed, and can't go out to eat because he can't afford it. And he's working 40 hours a week. So you have to ask yourself, where's the equality? Where's the justice? Is this the world that Democrats really sought to create all of these decades, all of these years? Is this the world that we want for ourselves and for each other? And I think these topics that I'm talking about right now are becoming more and more aware. The public is becoming more and more aware of how prominent they are and how tragic they are. And I think it's really destroying us psychologically, which it should. That's the correct response. And if it's not bothering you, then you may very well be a sociopath, and you need to have a lot of deep reflection about whether or not you want to continue as a sociopath, or if you want to make a change within and try and adjust your spirit to a better, brighter, more positive path. Like supporting Andrew Yang and UBI, because the transition to a universal welfare state through universal basic income is the way that we alleviate and heal this tragic, chronic injustice and immorality within our society. It is the ideal and moral way to do welfare and redistribution of wealth. It is the solution to a lot of our economic problems and a lot of our moral failings, systemic moral failings. And Marxism or Bernie Sanders is not the answer, because you know for a fact that they will never give any of those workers a single dollar of relief. And they will never remove a single dollar from anyone on the permanent welfare state. So the solution, the only solution, is to expand the welfare state to include everyone with a universal basic income. And then phase out these existing welfare programs, as Yang has suggested we do. Bernie will just increase the budgets of existing welfare programs and exacerbate the stress, the financial stress, and the financial suffering of the working class across this entire country. He will destroy the economy, and all of that money will be embezzled by people and institutions close to Washington, D.C. The workers will see nothing, your local communities will see nothing, and it will create a level of suffering that has never been seen before in this entire country. A level of suffering, mind you, that we all have, many of us have been going through for, I would say, at least 10, 20, even 30 years, based on your employment and your socioeconomic status. The whole idea of a socioeconomic status is abhorrent and disgusting, and it goes against the term "all men are created equal," right? People should be paid based on their accomplishments, not based on who their friends are, not based on whose ass they kiss, or what parties they're invited to, or who they were friends with in college. It should be based on accomplishment, and it should be based on what you provide to greater society and to the greater public. But I digress. I cannot stress enough that in the United States today, we have a greater percentage of slaves than have ever existed in the history of this country. The slave state has been expanded, and it no longer is based on race. That's why you can't see it. That's why people don't care, because it's not based on race anymore. It's based on your employment. It's based on where you work. It's based on if you get government benefits, if you have a government pension, if you're part of the statist paradigm. And people love slavery, okay? People will publicly denounce slavery over and over and over again, 100% of the time. But in private, among their friends, they love it. They love the power. They love the sloth. They love the laziness. And they fear becoming the slave themselves. It's their greatest fear. So they hate slaves and they adore slavery because that's not them. They're the winners. They're the victors. They're on top, right? So they can turn their backs on the immorality and their part in it. And they can step over homeless people who very well have jobs and are going to work. And the people stepping over those homeless people and the people that are demonizing them and dehumanizing them and criminalizing their very existence don't have a shred of empathy or remorse for their part in this system. And make no mistake about it, this system is going to be the death of this country and the death of this civilization, assuming we don't end the welfare state and end wage slavery and implement UBI and then come together and build Ancapistan as soon as possible.